Okay, are we there now? Thank you. Thank you for the opportunity, first and foremost, to be able to come and talk to you and hopefully start to right some of the perceived wrongs from last year's event. Because I wasn't directly involved last year, but I am still working with the parent company, Lagardère, and we are here with the sole intention of making this year's event a greater success than last year. So a little bit about myself. For those of you who don't know me, I used to be a police officer in Gwent until October 2014. I was involved in leading the planning for Gwent Police for the Ryder Cup, and also had a key role in NATO, another small event which went off. So I should hope that that preparation, first and foremost, prepares me for dealing with difficult crowds, but also, more importantly, the planning for big events, which we believe we're very good at. So, I seem to have... There we are. So, what I'm going to do today is talk about the key lessons learnt. As a colleague said, there was a debrief that was run at the end of this year, and that's how I got involved in the first instance. I was contacted by the Welsh Government, key officials, and asked if I could carry a debrief out on behalf of them for this year's Velothon, 2015 Velothon. We took a lot of advice and guidance back from all the local authorities, but also other key partners involved in running the event. And at the end of that, we came up with a series of recommendations. And what I was looking to do today was to run through the key points that came out of that debrief, because all 25 recommendations were accepted unanimously by everybody, including the event organisers from last year. So there were a number of key recommendations, primarily detailed and documented planning, the use of a local agency in the planning phase, earliest possible finalisation of the route, earlier and effective communication with the public and businesses, greater oversight by Welsh Government, an integrated and coordinated response from all the agencies involved, a greater focus on risk, and then identification of places where people can come and see the event. And finally, working with communities to overcome some of the negative views that had been created last year. So more detailed and documented planning, a key part of this. There's now a really well-structured series of groups which have got representation on them from all the local authorities, emergency services, but also we're bringing in key agencies that are going to work in the delivery of the event. So the stewarding company are already on board. The security company who are covering the city centre in Cardiff, they're already on board. The traffic management company are already on board with those groups, so that there is an opportunity for everyone to talk to each other well in advance of the event taking place, and certainly well in advance with the build-up, which didn't happen last year. The need for the Welsh Government to have a stronger involvement. There is now a strategic steering group with, again, representation from all the local agencies and local authorities at a strategic level, and the Welsh Government chair that, and they absolutely hold me to account for delivery against the accepted schedule that we're working to. All the local authorities are represented. I also now attend all the local authorities' internal groups. So Deb and I have met on a couple of occasions, and last week I came up to for the first opportunity to come and talk to the key people from within Monmouthshire County Council who are going to deliver this event or work with us to deliver the event. And I do the same with Torvine, Newport and Caerphilly as and when required. One other key recommendation was to use the local agency in the planning phase. And as already pointed out, Run for Wales have got a significant track record of running large-scale public events. As they say, a picture paints 1,000 words. This is the centre of Cardiff for the Cardiff Half Marathon, when 17,000 people go for a jog around the city centre. The infrastructure requirements for that are considerable, as you can imagine. And next March, or this March I should say, 26th of March, Easter Saturday, again in the centre of Cardiff, an event attracting 25,000 runners with some of the biggest and best names in world middle and long distance racing, including the likes of Mo Farah and key names from all over the world. They'll be going out live on TV. Run for Wales have got the responsibility of delivering that event. So, road closures and getting the information prepared earlier. Funny enough, on my way here this evening, I've spoken to the traffic management company, and we will have the plans ready for sign-off by the local authorities by the end of this month. When you bear in mind that those who were involved last year will tell you that those plans were being signed off in the week before the event. This year, we are looking at 12 weeks out. Communication with affected communities as early as possible. That is one of the reasons I'm here. I've done similar presentations to councillors in Newport, community councils in Newport as well, and also in Blaenavon. And I am also going to a business group in Torvine, and I've offered to do the same to any other groups, because I know from my personal experience in my previous role, if you come and talk to people and tell them the news, it might not necessarily be good news, but tell them the news face to face, then you've got a much better opportunity of developing a relationship where there's mutual trust. In addition to that, we're also sending out 110,000 leaflets across southern Wales to all the communities that are going to be impacted by this event. And those have started to be delivered today. Again, the communication went out to residents, but it was very, very late last year. So there's going to be 2 leaflet drops this year. Sorry, that's not right. This is the letter that's going to go out, and we've got examples of this for you. But there are 23,000 residents and businesses in Monmouthshire that will receive and have already started to receive these letters. Some of them will get it twice. Because of the way their postcode works, they've actually got a postcode that is part of Torvines, and so they will get the same letter on more than one occasion. So this is the area that we're actually doing the letter drop on. As you can see, a huge swathe of Monmouthshire is covered by the leaflet drop. So considering locations for viewing public along the route, one of the changes that was brought in for this year was a change in the only part of the route that got changed was through Monmouthshire. And that was for a number of reasons, but one of them was to bring the actual road race and the Velothon with the 14,000 or so cyclists through the centre of Usk. Some people might think that that's not necessarily a good idea, but the information we've had is that the residents and the businesses in Usk felt that they had the pain of last year's event without any of the joy, because it it came up the other side of the river and didn't actually go anywhere near Usk, so it was very difficult to see it. So the idea of bringing it through the centre of Usk is that those residents who want to see it can come out and see the whole event taking place in front of them. The other key area we realised that needs to be covered is the effect of this event on business. So we brought in a company with the specific intention of getting round and speaking to all the businesses affected by the event. Doing that in twofold. One is it'll be by email and by leaflet drops, but secondly, we're actually going to drive around the whole route and speak to the businesses that are on that route and just off it that are going to be directly affected by it, and identify what issues they may have. I mean, clearly if they're not open on a Sunday, the impact to them is negligible. But there will be businesses, there will be farms, there will be other kind of types of business which will have issues with this event. And what we will do then is try to identify a way of minimising the impact on them. So if there is, for instance, a particular time that a farmer needs to get from one side of his field to another, we'll look to facilitate that as best as we can. And we're doing Monmouthshire first, so we're starting that right at the end of this month with with picking up the route from Mega and all the way up through to Nanterderry. And then we'll do the same process in Newport, Torvine, Caerphilly and Cardiff over the next month to 6 weeks. But that's just opening a dialogue, because there will be people who they may not think they're going to be affected by it, and then they get a change. You know, someone wants to have a wedding, someone wants a christening, all those kind of things. And the idea of the early letter out to both business and the residents is to say to us, tell us if you've got something going on, and we can do what we can to help you facilitate it. So we're already aware of, and are talking to the registrars in the 5 local authority areas about the potentials for weddings and that kind of thing. Jack B are the company who've been brought in to specifically look around this communication. They do exactly the same role in Cardiff for the Cardiff Half Marathon, and they've just finished doing exactly the same role for the World Half Marathon. So they are very familiar with the kind of issues that businesses have to overcome. So some of the things that people have asked us about is the timings. Timings of road closures, timings of this event taking place, and what is the impact going to be in and around Monmouthshire. Based on the information we have to date, the first cyclist will start going out of Cardiff at 7 a.m. This is on Sunday the 22nd of May. The last cyclist from the amateur race will leave at 9 o'clock at the latest. The professional race will leave at Cardiff at 12:40. The road closures in and around Monmouthshire will commence at around between 6:45 and 7:30 in the morning, depending on where on the route you are, and I can show you a map of that to give you a better idea. Rather than having a blanket closure time, we're looking to zone the closure times, because there's no point in closing it earlier than it needs to be closed. And exactly the same at the end of the day, the roads will be opened no later than 3 to 3:30. So I'll just show you a map of the route. And if you can see this, I can zoom in. This is a nifty bit of kit. He says with total confidence, so yeah. So if I look at, for instance, Usk, where we are now. Yeah, I don't disagree. And so what we're not doing is sticking slavishly to the route. Where we've been able to identify premises that are close by, we will go and talk to them. But you can't have a closed road event without impacting on people on that day. So what we will look to do is to minimise that impact as much as possible, get the road closure out as early as possible, so the timings we're giving people are the worst timings. If clearly, as soon as the cyclist of the pro race has gone through, there will be a period of time to get any barriers or any straw bales or any protection that's been put onto the road removed, and then we'll reopen the roads. We're not going to keep them closed just because the road closure order allows us to. We're going to get those things taken out as early as possible.
Can I just ask you about the crossing points? Are they going to be fixed times when the crossing points are going to be accessible, or is it a matter of people booking an appointment, if you like, to cross the route?
Yeah, there will be a period of time from when the road closure goes in. So as we said, it's going to be sort of 7 o'clock in the morning. However, the first cyclists aren't leaving Cardiff till 7. So the crossing at those points and at those times will be perfectly allowable. Once we know the first cyclists are coming through, about 20 minutes or so before that, there's in effect a vehicle, one of our cars, that will drive the whole route. And when that vehicle gets seen, that's when they'll put the closure on. Once all the cyclists, the great mass, have gone through, there will be a period of time in the middle between that race finishing, or passing rather, and the professional riders coming through. Then we'll be able to allow crossing again. And for some places, it'll be logical to allow people to drive out, across and down, because the road network as such, north of the Three Salmons, you've got to go quite a long way before you can turn off again. So again, on those locations, there will be points of crossing which will be allowed. Yeah.
Thank you.
Peter Clark, the member for Langibby Vara. 3 of my communities are affected by this, as they were last year, Langibby, Lantrisand and Lanhennock. You've promised in communication that you will come to those community council meetings and meet the representatives of those areas. Can I please beg of you to do so? Because last year no one came, and apart from one meeting, and that person wasn't equipped to give the answers that my local community councillors would like to hear.
Yeah, as I said earlier on, I'm more than happy to do that. What I've tried to do, because clearly they meet at set times, they're normally at the start of the month, and to try and get round to see them all at a reasonable time is quite difficult. So what I did in Newport was we contacted all the affected councillors and did them in clusters, so that I came and talked to, I think I was talking to 6 or 7 of the community councils in and around Newport, and I'm more than happy to do the same. I think the practicalities of doing it that way means that everyone gets the same information at the same time, and I'm more than happy to do that.
Roger Gallatley from Usk Town Council. I welcome what you've just said to Councillor Clark with regard to meeting local community and town councils, and I would ask that you do the same with Usk Town Council, whose next meeting is on the 14th of March, a fortnight tonight. I think, is it fortnight or 3 weeks? 3 weeks tonight. We had the most incredible stick from all the businesses, retail outlets and what have you in the centre of Usk after last year, and the word disaster has been already used tonight, and it certainly was an economic disaster for those businesses last year. So obviously we will need to reassure those retailers and businesses, etc., that this is going to be considerably less of a disaster than it was last year. The big problem we have is that, as you well know, Usk is a very small community, both in size and population, but at the weekend it is a tourist hotspot, and the population tends to increase considerably. People, when they hear about the disaster last year, will steer clear of it like a plague, unless we can have sufficient publicity that will assure them that that will not happen. We want that assurance to give not only our residents, but also tourists who frequent the town and are a large part of the economy of the town on that day.
So I'm trying to bring the map back up for us, but I'm not having I'm halfway across Wiltshire at the moment, so I will stop that. So I don't disagree with what you're saying. One of the reasons of involving Usk Town Centre is to make it more of a place where people will congregate. There were a simple example in Blaenavon. Last year there was a particular pub that had exactly the same issue, said we rely heavily on our lunchtime trade, and if you're closing all the roads around us, then it's going to have a massive impact on us. It actually ended up as a place where people congregated, and it has never been so busy. And I think what we're trying to do is to say this is going to impact on you. You know, how can we work with you to make sure that you can make this is an opportunity for business for you to thrive on this particular day. So I'm more than happy to come to the town council in March, not a problem, and talk to them about it. But also talk to them specifically if there's a chamber of trade or something like those lines. Either myself or the business communications company Jack B will come and talk to you. That's exactly what we're doing with Torvine, because there are opportunities to make this event, particularly for the hotel trade and for everybody else, as an opportunity to gain a benefit from the event. The other thing to be remembered is that a lot of the participants who come don't know the area, and they know then that they're cycling in and around the roads of Monmouthshire, and they love it. And we know people came back from last year who came specifically back because they had been through there. Can we quantify it? It's very difficult to quantify that. But we are working with Monmouthshire County Council to maximise those opportunities by giving opportunities for businesses through the council to talk to the participants for the event. Can I just, before we go, I've had some earlier requests for information off Twitter and Facebook, so I thought I'd just cover these quickly. There's one on Twitter from a Liz Gardner. How much disruption will it cause? Well, I think it's going to cause disruption on the road network. What we are trying to do is to minimise that by giving people as much information as early as possible so that they can make reasonable changes to their day and still go about their business. But there may be, and those people who can't, or those businesses who can't, we will look to see what we can do to support them. But there will still be disruption. You can't close 140 kilometres of road and anticipate there will be no disruption to the public. A question on Facebook from someone called Lee Taylor asking who's paying compensation for local businesses and how to apply. There is no opportunity to provide compensation for any businesses who are affected by this event. If that was allowed, there would never be a public event on any of the road network by because the cost would just outweigh any kind of benefit to anyone. So unfortunately, Lee, there is no opportunity for compensation to be offered. A question about the A4042. Is the A4042 going to be closed again? Which villages will be cut off? And that's again on Facebook from someone called Irwin Rogers. I think, as I mentioned in the presentation, we're looking to keep the elements of the 4042 open. So south of where the new route at Nantudari rejoins the 4042, people will be able to drive south from there down the 4042 towards Pontypool and Cwmbran. The section north of there will be closed throughout the period of time from probably there about 8 o'clock through till about 3:30. A question asked, is it going to be a total shambles like last year with communities being totally cut off, bad communications with the organisers? Well, I would hope today shows the intent that we have for the planning of this year's event to engage with the communities affected by it and to minimise that and give them as much information as we can as early as we can. And I'm not quite sure if shambles is word of the month, sorry. Is it going to be a shambles like last year? Communication cut off, bad communication with the organisers. Again, the point I'd make is we are doing as much as we can, as early as we can, to communicate with the communities in and around the whole venue. One of the things that we look to cover is what it was like for the 14,000 or 13,000 riders who took part last year. And I think for those people, they thought the event was a fantastic success. 96% said it was excellent or good. 90% have said they want to do it again this year. 3/4 of them have said the route was excellent, and nearly all of them said they entered because of the closed roads. Some of the other questions that they were asked that haven't been quantified is, will you come back? How many of you were from Wales? How many of you were from the area? Over half the people who came to this event were not from Wales or not from the communities of southeast Wales. And they were asked as well, will you come back to the area as a result of your experience? And the vast majority of them who answered that question said yes. Some of the photographs, and I do have a little, this is through the centre of Newport. That's a part of the route that you will recognise. And I do have a short video to give you an idea of the publicity that came from the event. So you saw the experience that Caerphilly had. It came through the town centre of Caerphilly. That's what I would hope to see that we'll have in Usk. The public out en masse, enjoying the event, enjoying the day. Not everyone will, but hopefully the vast majority will. And that's at the end of the formal element of the presentation. So if we could go to some questions, I apologise, I cut you off.
I just wanted to be clear. Is it the case that the closed roads will reopen between the amateur and professional rides or not?
Sorry, the whole route will not reopen. There will be crossing points and emergency local access points. So there will be areas where the community are affected by it, and so they will be able to cross the route to get to the other side. So Centre of Usk is a really good example of that, where clearly to do the dog leg from the Tyne Square to go up by the Three Salmons, you're cutting the town in half. So for a period of time, for about an hour or so, we will reopen that crossing point so that the public can move. If they want to go out towards the Raglan side of Usk, they can, or vice versa. But the whole route will not be reopened. We couldn't safely do that and then guarantee the safety of everyone after the event, after the road closure time, because there would be cars caught inside the closed road network.
Yes, please, if I may. To make this successful this year, you've got to communicate properly. Last year, communication was not good. Just a suggestion you might like to consider. Other side of England, a couple of weeks ago, and I came across just nice, neat notices, fair number of them along a route, and really rather amazing. This road will be closed, and it was a date in July, giving pre-warning to the people who travel along that route. Your paper distribution will go to households, hopefully people will read it, but it's not going to impact on the people who regularly travel routes or come through and don't realise that on May the 22nd, whoops-a-daisy, we can't get to Auntie Nellie's, we can't do the hospital visit. So I think it might be worth considering putting up notices really early, saying, Velothon, May the 22nd, this route will be closed from whatever time. And obviously you've made proper arrangements to access the hospital at Neville Hall if it should be needed.
Yeah, no, thanks for the suggestion. No, we are working closely. There will be signage going out. I doubt, I'll be honest, it's not going to be as early as now for July, but we work with the local authority for the notification time periods that they work to for every other road closure. Because it all depends on whether it's just closed for a day or if it's going to be closed for a period of time.
Can I come back? Even if it's for a day, it's more critical probably than if it's for 6 weeks, as is the situation in a bridge in the ward next to me at the moment. It's well advertised, it's been done, and it's a regular occurrence. It's the one-off day that will blight not your performance, people's perception of how the thing was run. Give the public plenty of notice, clear notice, and if Monmouth can't do better than a few days forward to notify the public and the travelling public, that is to be regretted.
That's fine. I mean, as I said, we will put the notices out as early as we can. In most local authority areas, the maximum time we're given is 2 to 3 weeks. Okay, any other?
No? Okay.
Yes, I should have covered that. Yes, you're absolutely right. There, and it's called the sweep bus. The sweep bus will come along at a set period, at a set speed, which has been agreed. And as they catch up with riders, two things will happen. They'll be offered the opportunity to get on the bus and give up, for want of a better word, or they will sign a disclaimer saying they now know they're going to be off a closed road network, and there may well be vehicles driving along that road for that period of time. So we give them every opportunity to move them to another point on the route where they can then rejoin it. The other thing we don't do is have the slowest at the back, so they're the first likeliest to be caught up. There are normally the fastest riders will go off, the ones who are really fast will go off at the start, and then everybody else gets mixed up. So the idea is that we don't, Johnny Slowly, who thinks he's going to be have a go at this, is not going to get swept up after 60 kilometres. But there is an absolute cut-off point where they will be moved on.
So just to follow up on that, does that mean to say that Usk, for instance, would be in advance of the race able to know at what point the last cyclist is going to come through, after which they can actually advertise that there will be a crossing points open between certain hours?
Yeah, the timing of the sweep bus will be linked to the start of the mass race, the sportif element of the race. It is, because it's a changing beast, as you can imagine. I can't give you a guarantee of that, but when that bus goes through, then there is an absolute. That's the indication to the marshals and the stewards who are on the route that they can start reopening the road for a period of time. But what we will do is we will publish the crossing point times within the overall closure times.
I've been told that some of the route is in very poor state. What's being done about making sure that it's safe for the riders?
The whole route will be inspected jointly between ourselves and each of the 5 local authorities. The local authorities have a standard that they work to for the condition of the road, and so we're not expecting a bowling green for 440 kilometres. I think it would be fair to say. So that joint inspection will give the opportunity for some of the worst potholes to be filled in where they are absolutely unsafe. But we're not expecting the local authorities, any of the local authorities, to pick up any additional cost. It'll be about moving things forward, and if there are areas that do need a bit of filling, it will just be that.
I think one of the problems is that you get a lot of grit on the road, and that an awful lot of roads need sweeping after the poor weather we've just had because potholes have reopened.
Yeah, one of the things we do is sweep the road in conjunction with the local authorities. So yeah.
Can I ask you the question that there's a lot, we've already noticed a lot of people practicing on the route already, and there's a couple of areas like the tumble itself where cyclists that are going up in groups up the tumble, I noticed last year, they started to become a bit of a sort of a traffic hazard where you've got groups of 4 or 5, they haven't been along it before, they don't realise how steep it is. Is there an opportunity to do some linking with what the councillor said earlier on about advance notices, perhaps something that on these particular points like the tumble and perhaps pinch points through Usk, perhaps some advance notice for motorists to take care because there will be more cyclists on the road practicing the route?
I would like to say everyone who cycles up the tumble is going to be doing the Velothon, but I think it's a well-known route in and around the area for cyclists to do. And you're quite right, this time of year and moving forward, more and more cyclists will be coming out on the road. But I think there are cyclist warning signs, the red triangles up with cyclists on that route anyway. So, yeah, I mean, I think it would be great that we were the only gig in town, but unfortunately we won't be. And a lot of cyclists already do Usk the route through Monmouthshire and up the tumble.
Well, I live in Llanover and I have noticed, an increase in cyclists last year with the Velothon leading up to it. But certainly now you've got a lot of people coming through, which was more than before the Velothon started. So I think there is other activity, obviously, but there are larger groups. And I'm just thinking that, it might be worth just considering that about a little bit of advance warning, I think, for motorists.
I think it'd be fair to say we'll make the local authority aware of the potential for signage. I mean, clearly that's not our responsibility, but we can work with the local authorities around that. Yeah. Rhian, have we got any more questions online? Okay.